Hey, I'm Mike.
Hey, I'm Chris.
This is Mike and Chris Reloaded.
This week we got bringing our top 5 that we were supposed to do last week, right?
Yeah, we had weather problems, and we have weather problems today, for criminy sakes.
I know. It's like they don't want us to do it.
Yeah, we're not supposed to do this show, but we're gonna do it anyways. Damn it! Go ahead. Today we got 2 guests. We got Kent.
Hola.
Thanks for coming back on the show.
Thank you, sir. And we got a new guest.
A new one.
A new guest, and actually this is
fresh blood to
this
pick
is
on.
his brainchild. This was his idea. That's
it
why
was
we
his
brought him
idea.
on.
Thank you very much for it.
We got Heath.
Well, hey guys, thank y'all for having me on here. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for coming on, and thank you for giving us the idea. It's
Absolutely.
actually a really good idea.
It is a good idea. It's so good that I thought of it, and I just let Heath take credit for it.
Yeah.
I did.
He does that a lot. He
I don't
does that
mind.
an awful lot.
I don't mind.
No, he did think of it all, but it's top 5 most shocking movie endings.
Yeah.
So it's top 5 shows. So get ready for at least 40 minutes of listening to us nag you. No, I'm just kidding. But I do want to say something. I have a death in the family today.
Oh my God! Here we go again.
So I had a death in the family, so I almost couldn't do the show.
Let it go, Mike. Let it go.
I can't. My coffee maker died today. It's terrible. Now I have no way to produce coffee at home.
Do you have a strainer?
I do have a strainer, but I don't like doing physical activity.
Do you have hot
Lifting
water?
that pot's just
Have
too
you
much.
seen pictures of me? I'm kind of fat. So,
No, I've never seen pictures.
And when I say kinda, I mean really. So I don't like doing this. But anyways, let's get into this show.
Yes. Let's go ahead and we'll start with Kent and work our way around. I guess whichever clockwise or counterclockwise.
It's a lot of pressure. I'm not prepared here.
Kent's leading the bar here.
All right.
But sorry, not to interrupt you, but just to be warned, there will be spoilers in this. So if you have not seen any of these movies that are probably dated back in the 1960s and on,
Tough shit. No.
there will be some spoilers. We'll try to keep it to minimum and listen at your own risk. Kent,
all of them are going to be a little spoilerific, as these are the surprise endings. And
yes,
if we
they
get into
are.
the surprise ending, well, all right. Well, you said 1960s. You're not too far off. My first one is the original House on Haunted Hill.
With
Vincent
Vincent
good
Price.
one.
Oh yeah.
1959. Vincent Price, of course, who was playing Frederick Loren, Carol Ohmhart, who was playing his wife, Richard Long, and a handful of other people. If you've seen the new one, which I'm assuming most people do, there was a little bit of a twist in that, but it wasn't quite the same. In this one, basically, he takes a bunch of people to his house.
On a haunted hill?
It was on a haunted hill. No,
Spoilers!
Vincent Price gets offed earlier in the movie, then towards the end, what appears to be some sort of a ghost, which is skeletons on strings, comes floating at his wife, knocking her into this very, very haphazardly put acid pit in the middle of the house. The fun twist, as it were, and for the time, 1959, guys, the lights come on, and Vincent Price himself is in this PVC contraption with wires and pulleys to move the skeleton because he was just pretending he was dead off his wife he hated.
But doesn't everybody have a vat of acid in the middle of their house?
No.
Going
with no.
I do.
I thought that was a standard issue.
It just, for the time, it was pretty interesting. Now it's downright laughable. If you watch it, you'll laugh like it's a bad YouTube video.
Yeah, I've never actually watched that movie.
It's fantastic.
It's been
the
forever
new one's not
since
bad
I've seen
either.
it. But yeah.
It just suffers from a horrible ending, so I don't want to talk about that one. But the original, 1959, check it out.
Good. Mike?
My number 5 is going to be Soylent Green.
Nice.
I love that movie, actually. So basically, it takes place in the future, which would probably be modern day now.
A dystopian future.
Yeah, where everybody's starving of food, and the company, Soylent Corporation, produces food for everybody that they can make. And the twist at the end, of course, is Soylent Green is people. So I mean,
they look like little crackers.
Yeah, it's a great movie. It's one of those nostalgic films that are worth watching. So if you haven't seen it, I'm sorry, I just spoiled it for you. It's people, but it's a great movie.
Soylent Green.
The protein nutrient supplement,
people.
Soylent Green, that's currently out, is not people, as far as I know.
Don't spoil it.
That's Charlton Heston, right?
Yeah, Charlton Heston.
So there's really a product called Soylent Green out right now, which is a meal replacement. I kid you not. You'd think after that movie that would be a bad idea.
No, nostalgic people like me would probably buy it. But number 5 to you, Bob.
My number 5, 1995, directed by Bryan Singer, Usual Suspects. Gabriel Byrne, Benicio del Toro, Kevin Spacey. Essentially, there's this huge just fight or whatever on a ship, and this detective's trying to piece everything together with the only survivor, who happens to be Kevin Spacey, who talks of this super crime lord named Kaiser Sose, and it's just just watching the movie, and then this you're so enthralled in this everything that's going on, how he's explaining this everything in detail, and he puts this whole thing together just by looking at everything in the guy's office, just to throw him off. It's just like, wow. And then as he walks off all gimpy, he just walks off into the sunset, and little do we know, Kevin Spacey was Kaiser Sose.
No relation to Verbal Kent.
Yes. But yes, great movie. Like I said, when you're just watching this movie the whole time, it's like he's just spinning this whole tale, and everything's in such detail, but everything in this detective's office, he took pieces from everything in this detective's office to tell this entire story.
Mm-hmm.
And he just walks away.
Some of Bryan Singer's best work.
Yes.
Fantastic movie. Absolutely.
Another one I haven't seen. Isn't that sad?
Great movie.
Isn't that sad? That's two I haven't seen.
In fact, I have it in our Blu-ray. Yeah, borrow from you.
Is this the point where I bring up that was my number 2?
No, this is the point where you talk about your number 5.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, well, my number 5 is a little bit more up to date than 1960 or 1959. It's Shutter Island. 2010. Leonardo DiCaprio, Mark Ruffalo's in it. It's directed by Martin Scorsese. Scorsese.
Scores easy.
So even though it's a newer movie, it's set back in 1954. Have you guys seen this movie?
Oh yeah.
Leonardo DiCaprio, such a great job in this movie. Oh my gosh.
I love Leo, man.
Fantastic in this. And Mark Ruffalo does a really good supporting job, too. The synopsis is, it's a couple U.S. Marshals investigating the disappearance of a woman who's been convicted of murder. She's escaped from a mental hospital. On this remote island, there's no way on earth, according to the people who run this place, that she could have gotten out of her cell. No one saw her leave. No one knows where she is. They interview the cooks and the nurses and the staff. They also go and interview some of the inmates, which makes it really creepy. This movie is fantastic because a lot of movies claim that you can watch a movie a second time if you know the ending and it changes the movie. And sometimes, for the most part, that's not true. This movie is completely true. You will watch certain scenes where Leonardo DiCaprio is interviewing people, and they act peculiar or bizarre, and you just chalk it up to, well, this person's in an insane asylum. Why wouldn't they? But then when you realize why they act that way, well, the second time you watch the movie, it just completely opens your eyes that Leonardo DiCaprio, spoiler alert, is not a U.S. Marshal. He's not a detective. He is a criminally insane person who murdered his wife, and I do believe daughter too, right?
Yeah, was it 2 daughters?
I think it's just the one, but
Just
I'm not sure. It's been a long time.
And this was their last gasp at immersion therapy to bring him out of this, because he will not, for whatever reason, fess up to these horrible crimes that he's committed. He has got himself in the mind of a detective. So they've got this whole island organized to play the part, to play the role for him, hoping this will bring him out of this fake world that he's created for himself. And at the end of the movie, you realize that there is nothing that is going to bring him back to reality and the horrible things that he has done, and they pretty much have to kill him. You don't see that in the movie, but it's heavily implied that this was his last gasp at redemption, and it didn't work out for him.
I have actually not seen that movie.
It is fantastic.
How do you not? That's like I'd say that was Leo's greatest film, in my opinion.
Really fantastic, and the movie is solid all the way through, but the ending just brings it all together.
Yeah, it does. It goes up
to me anyway.
Does he go up like a lighthouse or something at the end?
Mm-hmm.
And oh man, that just
and not one bear in the entire thing.
No,
not
one bear.
Weird.
I'm surprised he didn't win any awards for that. Oh,
no bears.
Yeah,
that was the problem.
I mean, that movie was great. So number 4 to you, Kent.
Well, number 4, this was a tough one for me, but you guys did say my top 5. This isn't necessarily what I would call a huge twist-ending movie. It was more of a twist middle, if you will. But 1999, Fight Club. I just love me. Uh-oh. Hey, don't feel bad. The one they mentioned earlier was on my list too there, Heath. Starring, of course, Brad Pitt, Edward Norton, Helena Bonham Carter. Oh, and of course, Meatloaf. Can't leave out the Meatloaf.
With his boobs.
And the funny part about that one, that is a kind of a twist ending. Meatloaf had just lost a ton of weight before getting that role and had to wear a fat suit through the whole movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah, a little fun thing there. But if you haven't seen Fight Club, there's not
I
a lot
would
to
have done
twist
it
there.
for free.
Watch it. The novel is better than the movie. I know that's blasphemy, but it's true. Chris, I can never say his last name right. Palachunk. I don't know. If there's any fans out there, you'll correct us.
Yeah. Oh no, you're listening. We won't get corrected.
Yeah, right. I can't complain about it. No,
Yeah.
basically the story revolves around Edward Norton, who's a character who sort of identifies as a character named Jack, who's dealing with all these weird occurrences in his life and his own kind of dystopian tripe of not understanding the world anymore. It's also one of the first movies to subliminally show you a character. Brad Pitt has 7 or 5, I think it's 5, subliminal appearances before his character ever emerges in the movie. And of course, the big twist being they're the same person.
Yeah.
So
Edward Norton's character is Tyler Durden.
he is Tyler Durden. So everybody should know everything about that movie. If you
a
don't,
soap salesman.
a soap salesman. That's right.
Is that why you don't talk about Fight Club?
Yeah, it is the first
We
rule.
don't talk about Fight
It is
Club.
the first rule.
Then he wants to fight William Shatner.
Who doesn't?
That's true.
Who
William
doesn't?
Shatner probably kicked my ass.
Me too.
Don't tamper with Kirk.
Yeah.
Sure. All right, number 4 on to you, Mike.
I'm going to keep it with a little bit old school and go with Planet of the Apes.
Good one.
Very good. Another Heston movie.
Yeah, another Charlton Heston movie. So basically, if you haven't seen Planet of the Apes, the original, they go out in a space shuttle and they crash land on a foreign planet, in which apes have created a society that rule the planet.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And basically, the big surprise ending is at the end. It shows a picture it shows the Statue of Liberty buried in the sand. And really, they didn't go to another planet. They stayed on Earth just years later down the road. I mean, it's a great feel-good movie. It's way better than the remakes that they're putting out today, in my opinion. I like the remakes. Or not the remakes, the prequels. I should say I like the prequels, but it just doesn't have the same staying power as the originals do, in my opinion.
And I don't know.
It's not dropping the same political statement. It's more human story of how the apes are humans
Yeah.
and how they're coming up. That
I mean, they're
explores
good.
their side.
The prequels are good. I'm not saying they're terrible movies.
No.
I just don't think that. I don't think 20 years from now I'm gonna, be talking on a podcast and say, hey, that Planet of the Apes movie, War of the Apes or whatever.
Well, Heston's was a classic for a reason.
Yeah.
So some movies get old and some movies become classics, and to me, that's a classic. So
Yeah. So I just don't feel like the prequels are going to be a classic like this. But on to you, Chris. Number 4.
Number 4 to me is more of a newer one. 2016's director Denis Villeneuve. The movie called Arrival, not to be confused with The Arrival with Charlie Sheen. This one's called Arrival. So it has Amy Adams, Jeremy Renner, Forrest Whitaker in it.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, these 12 ships or something land on Earth.
I want to see this movie.
These 12 ships land on Earth at points around Earth, and they bring in Amy Adams, who's a linguist, to come in and try and decipher their language, because they've made contact with these the giant squid-looking creatures. But through the movie, like at the very beginning, you see her like with a little girl and this and that, and then you don't see like the little girl later on. Like it gives reference to looks like to where the little girl might have died or something, has something wrong with her. Well, as she goes through and is trying to talk to these and communicate with these aliens, they're giving her a new language to learn. And I'm sure you've seen this.
I've watched the movie.
Yeah. Yeah, they're giving her a new language to learn, and as she deciphers, she starts understanding the language, and the language actually it predicts the future.
Well, it's omni-time, yeah.
Yeah,
it's a loop.
It's a loop. The language actually allows her to basically, because in the movie you see her, she sees this kid and stuff, like she has these memories of the daughter and stuff like that, but she's never had a daughter.
But she will.
But she will have a daughter. And then the guy, Jeremy Renner, plays another professor that's with her, another guy that's with her, and comes to find out he's the guy she ends up getting with. and this and that, and
That's
then
because Hawkeye never misses.
yeah, that's right. But what it is the daughter she comes to realize the daughter will be born with a disease or whatever, and she still chooses to go forward with it because and like there's a book out that shows the linguist and everything else, and what she keeps seeing all these images you think she's seeing that she's already done, she hasn't even done yet.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like one of those like you talked about, like when the movies you see, you don't you watch it a second time, it's like, oh well, that makes much more sense now. It's like, wow, you see in this movie the way they do it, it's just like everything's so like it just looks like she's having flashbacks, like she's having a hard time trying to forget her daughter. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But in reality, she never even knew her daughter because she hadn't been born yet.
See, I've actually not seen this movie yet.
I haven't either.
So
It's spoiled for me.
I've heard it was fantastic.
It is a really good movie.
I haven't got around to
Actually,
watching it.
it is actually a really good movie, and I was really surprised, and it was really good.
Mike should not watch it until he gets a new coffee pot, though.
Yes.
Because big spoiler here, their language or their alphabet or whatever you want to call it basically looks like the rings that your coffee mug leaves on the table, and I don't want you to watch it and cry.
I'm about to cry right now.
I know. Not only do we spoil a movie, but no coffee.
So that is my number 4, and I would go Heath to you.
All right. Well, mine's a little bit more sinister than the Aliens. This is 2004, directed by James Wan. Stars Carrie Elways and Danny Glover, and the original Saw. This movie was so. In 2004, we're talking about classics with Charlton Heston, and a lot of times horror classics go back to Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, Michael Myers, and so there hadn't been a new horror icon on the scene in a long time. Maybe Scream, maybe the Ghostface Killer from Scream.
Maybe.
There were plenty of horror movies come out, and a lot of them will get sequels straight to DVD, and they just kind of die in the ether somewhere. And this movie came out, and it was Saw, and it was about a guy named Jigsaw who had found out he had cancer, and he was terminal, dying, and he wanted people to appreciate the lives that they had. And by putting them through a series of horrible events, traps, tortures, and as you watch the movie, you actually do realize that if most of these people had just went through whatever horrible thing that he had set up for them, they would probably have been maimed and hurt, but they would have lived. It's sitting still in this universe that is what kills you. And I was watching the trailer earlier before I came up here, and one of the characters says that Jigsaw never kills anybody. These people actually kind of kill themselves. And the people who make it through are grateful because they have their lives at the end of it. And it's kind of a twisted sense of morality that, sure, you have what you have, but do you really appreciate what you have? And until you've gone through something horrendous, maybe you can't really fully appreciate it. So the twist at the end of this movie is that Jigsaw loves to be up front and up close and have a personalized view to see if someone will struggle and succeed or see if they die and fail. So the whole time in this movie, Carrie Elways, who plays a doctor, is chained up in a room along with another guy named Adam, and there's a dead body in the middle of the floor that's surrounded by blood, a gun, and a bullet. And you realize at the end of this movie that body is not so much a dead body as it is Jigsaw, who has been watching the events unfold the whole time. Carrie Elways took initiative, cut his leg off, but like I said, he lived. He maimed himself, but he lived to go out and try throughout the world to try to find freedom. The other guy, Adam, didn't have the guts to do it. He sat there and was eventually locked away. And unfortunately, the franchise kind of went on, and it didn't get better as it went on. This one was kind of, to me, the pinnacle, but it spawned a franchise. It spawned a character. I knew this thing was going to be big when you saw kids wearing Jigsaw Halloween costumes. And I was like, this could be like the next great horror slasher villain.
Oh yeah, I agree. I love Saw.
And like I said, the sequels aren't as strong, but to me, the original was so good.
Well, see, to me, in the sequels, it seemed like they were just. In the sequels, it's like, let's just show inventive ways of how to kill people.
Right.
And it's just like, after that, it's like,
And kind of the message, like I said, the message to me was, how much do you appreciate what you have? What are
Well,
you willing to give up to keep it?
I think the sequels had their place though because it continued and delved into the story more of
Oh, sure.
Jigsaw. So I think they were needed. They could have been done better, but I think they were needed so that we get a better understanding of
Yeah, but
of
didn't he
the
eventually
Jigsaw.
die in like the third or fourth
I think he died in
movie
the
or
fourth
something?
one.
Much
Yeah,
like
sounds
Halloween, it starts good, but it starts getting murky the
Is there-
farther you go on.
And
Right.
It
sadly,
starts
they're
getting weird.
they're developing another Saw movie
Yeah.
right
Called
now.
Legacy, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So-
no, Heath, that last 3-4 minutes when that music cue is pumping and
Oh
he
my
stands up and
gosh.
he's closing the shutter door, you got the goosebumps on your arm. It's an amazing moment.
And how fantastic it's not a knife, it's not a gun, it's a door being shut.
Yep.
And that is the end of your existence.
Don't they later on in one of the sequels? Don't they end up panning back to that photographer still locked in that room?
Yeah, I do believe so, and I do think that Carrie Elways is in some of the other sequels. I don't remember how big his role is in the other movies, but I know it wasn't as big as the first one.
Right.
So
that's a good one.
That is good, and I completely overlooked it because of the other movies. It wasn't even a thought in my head. It's not even in my honorable mentions. And once you started talking about it, I realized I had missed a really good one. You're 100%.
Well, thank you, sir.
Wow.
Number 3. Do you?
Number
Ken?
Trace, sticking in the millennials here. 2000, little Guy Pearce action.
Oh.
Memento.
Mm-hmm.
Another one where it's not necessarily a twist ending, per se, as a twist middle. If anybody has not seen the movie, you see color segments and black and white segments. And at first, you're really confused and you think the editor was drunk. As time goes on, you realize you're watching a movie that's starting from one end and the other end, and they're both coming back to the events of the middle. All circulates around a man who has a mental condition who can't remember anything more than a parakeet, like 5 minutes. And he has to tattoo stuff on his body to remember. In his head, he believes that somebody killed his wife, some mysterious man, so he's been leaving himself clues to track down said baddie and take him out. The problem is he honestly can't remember more than 5 minutes, and has been taking out, as it comes to light throughout the film, many people throughout time. And the story that he always tells about being an insurance adjuster about some poor old nice doddering man who got a head injury from a car accident who killed his wife who had diabetes because he just kept giving her insulin over and over and over. He references this story 5 or 10 times in the film. That was him too. So he started by killing his own wife, couldn't deal with the fact that he had killed his own wife, and now stalks the world sort of as a gun for hire, going after anybody who sort of wrongs him, peeves him that day. He starts getting tattoos about you, and that's about it.
10-second tall.
Yep, pretty much. But with a gun or whatever, other weapon he uses.
Yeah, really good movie, actually.
You know, I don't think I've ever seen this movie all the way through. I've seen bits and clips of pieces of it when it's on TV.
Uh-huh.
I don't think I've ever watched the whole thing all the way
This
through.
this is by
Yeah.
one you have to sit down and watch the whole thing. You can't watch bits and pieces of it. Otherwise, you'd be like, why is he doing,
Right.
You actually have to sit down and watch
It
this
will
one.
ruin Trinity from The Matrix for you forever. She's a supporting character in that. And she knows of his condition and comes in and sort of has a horrible, horrible fight with him at one point where she calls him an idiot, a retard, smacks him around a little bit. Then she walks out in the driveway, and as he's standing there scrambling as quick as he can to write a message about how evil she is, but she took all his pens.
Yeah.
She goes out in the driveway and punches herself 3 or 4 times in the face, then walks up crying and is like, he did it! My husband hit me! And now he's got a new victim.
Wow.
And because she knew it, she didn't even get in her car. She just stood there in the driveway staring at him, started punching herself. So it really, you get more into like how these horrible people are using him more than how he's a bad person. He's not a bad person. He's just horribly
Mentally
confused.
ill.
Yeah, very ill.
Yeah,
So-
that's a good one. I didn't even think about that. Didn't even make my list of movies when I was writing it out. I completely
Well, it was
forgot
like his
about
Saw.
that one.
Saw was just a great one. So
Yeah.
So
three
number three
seems to be the good stuff here.
Number 3 to Mike.
My number 3 has already been said. It is Fight Club.
Oh, yeah.
So one of my all-time favorite twist ending movies. It's I don't know what more to say about
Don't talk about it.
Huh?
Don't talk about it.
Yeah. Don't talk about it. I mean, pretty much everything's been said about it. So on to you, Chris.
My number 3, a little movie in 1980, directed by Irvin Kershner. Episode 5. Empire Strikes Back.
Luke.
How many people? I mean, now we know the whole story now, but how many people saw it? Did anybody?
No.
Well, the name Vader. I mean, it means father.
Was it German?
Yeah, it's Dutch or Norwegian. It's some off branch of that, but yeah,
Okay.
it's father. No, I didn't know. I was what, like 4 at the time,
Were
man?
you even born
3?
then?
Yes. Actually, I was born right around. No, I thought it came
When
out
did
in
it come out?
81.
1980.
Oh crap! I wasn't born yet, so no, I didn't see it coming. I didn't see it coming.
Apparently, neither did your parents.
I didn't see it until I was like 5 or 6, to be honest.
But even so, even watching it,
Was.
do you like,
Yeah, it's powerful. I mean,
Yeah,
Luke
but like,
sells that, by
whoa.
the way.
Whoa. Of course, you got the prequels now where, the whole Anakin thing, everybody knows everything else. But at the time, for its time, it's like you see this movie, you're like, no way. What? You got this guy that's just like pretty much had the Death Star in episode 4, destroyed planets, kidnapping people. Of course, I guess the bigger surprise would be to find out that Leia was Luke's sister and they were kissing. Yeah. But,
Smoochy,
yeah.
smoochy.
That's probably why he was screaming no that much, because the smooching was earlier in the film.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, great twist, great plot twist. I mean, I love
Yeah.
me some Star Wars.
Yeah, and that's pretty much one of the only biggest plot twists.
Twat.
Yeah, twat.
Well, forget the
Plot
F-bomb
twist.
this episode, guys.
Yeah.
We're going for genitalia.
But that's pretty one of the biggest plot twists you'll ever see in a Star Wars movie. You don't really see too many after that, but
100% agreed.
Absolutely.
It spawned so many different memes. Did you see the meme, the videos of all the kids finding out Vader was Luke's father? All the little kids watching that. Have you seen that one,
I haven't
Chris?
seen that one.
Oh yeah, there's a video rolling around of videotaping all these different kids right when he says, "Luke, I'm your father," and they're like, "Oh, really? Is he really his father?"
I did see the one meme where it's like, when you find out like whatever's your sister or whatever,
Yeah.
and it's like Han's like.
Doing the looking
It was
around.
the episode 6 where they're on the indoor, and he's like.
Well, even that horrible movie Reign of Fire, where it was basically post-apocalyptic with dragons, when they had alone time with the kids, the stories they were passing on weren't King Arthur and the Knights of the Round. They were reenacting Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
And the kids wigged out. That became the new mythos. That became the legacy to pass on to people. So you're onto something there.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
oh,
George Lucas dream.
All right, well, my number 3, I'm sure when it comes to directors, everyone has heard of the sophomore slump. A lot of times directors will hit one movie out of the park and it's huge. And unfortunately for this guy, he's made a career out of sophomore slumps. This was the man that people held as the next Alfred Hitchcock. Now that's an awfully big title to have thrown on you after your first movie.
Maybe that's why you had a sophomore slump.
Yeah, maybe so.
Setting him up for failure.
But this movie came out in 1999. It's one of the movies that rejuvenated Bruce Willis's career. Haley Joel Osment either won an Oscar or was nominated for an Oscar.
He was nominated.
And this is a child we're talking about. Fantastic. The Sixth Sense it was such a great movie. And the thing about it is it transcends genres. Is this a horror movie? Not necessarily. Is it a drama? Absolutely. Will it send tingles up and down your spine throughout the whole thing? Without a doubt. A little child who seems like he has a lot of problems in his life and only has his mom there close to him. We don't really see the dad figure. Has an amazing gift to be able to see people who are dead. Not only see them, but talk to them and communicate with them. And they need things from him. They want things from him. They want him to make their lives whole in a way that they could not do while they were here on Earth. The problem is, as being a child and seeing these horrific acts and seeing these horrible visions, he kind of strays away from these people, goes away from these people. And a child psychologist by the name of, it's Bruce Willis, I don't remember what his name is in the movie, kind of befriends this kid and sees that he needs someone, an adult male figure in his life, to kind of nurture him and help him. And he can confide in him and tell him these things and tell him the horrible things that only he can see. His mom, and there's a line in the film where he says his mom, other people look at him weird, and he doesn't want his mom to look at him that way. So he doesn't tell her the horrible things that he sees. But he feels comfortable telling Bruce Willis these things, and he's almost like a bridge to help him. Of course, the dun dun dun, big twist at the end of the movie is that Bruce Willis is dead the whole time, and he is more of a kinder, gentler ghost than some of these horrible apparitions this child has seen, half faces half blown off, hanging from a ceiling somewhere. Um, and you realize that Bruce Willis has been dealing with his own problems throughout the whole movie. You think it looks like his marriage is crumbling, his whole world is falling down, and then you realize that his world fell apart long before a lot of the events in this movie took place. Um, and then you also realize that Bruce Willis, kind of at the end of this movie, needed this child as much as the kid needed him. And like I said, it's so fantastic. It's one of those movies that it hits a couple different genres without being pigeonholed into all those genres. It's really fantastic.
Yeah, and I like in the movie too. It's like there's certain scenes where it shows him like where he can't open a door, or he can't do this, or he doesn't want to open the door,
Right.
because he doesn't he's thinking he doesn't want to do it because he doesn't want to disturb somebody, but he can't actually do it.
Right. So that's when and M. Night Shyamalan very masterfully at the end of this thing sets up shot by shot by shot where if you're really paying attention to it, you would figure out the twist in the movie. I remember reading an article and M. Night was talking to one of the executive producers, and they do that scene where the little boy says, "I see dead people," and they were watching the screen of it, and it just went. And M. Night's like, "This is going to give it away. Everyone's going to go, well, Bruce Willis is dead." And he said it went over everybody's head. And he was so proud and so pleased because he was afraid that people were going to come up to him and go, "Well, it says in the movie, it's obviously Bruce Willis is dead." And he said nobody caught it.
No, I was a sucker. I didn't catch it until the second. I mean, I caught it at the end, but I mean, I didn't start putting pieces together until the second.
Yeah, you didn't even see it till he opened his jacket and he has the bullet hole and
Right.
I did catch one thing, and it's honest to God, because the only time I've seen this movie, other than bits and pieces, I did go to the theater to see it when it came out. And the entire time I was sitting there, I wanted to know who did the costume direction. Because Bruce Willis's character is wearing the exact same three-piece suit through the entire thing. He never changes his clothes. And I'm like, man, he really loves that suit. Or they just weren't working on the... I was so focused on the suit, I had no clue he was dead.
Wow, I never would have picked up on that.
Well, it's just weird that he was always wearing the same
I was going to say
thing.
that too. He's always wearing the same...
Yeah.
He wore the same suit through the whole movie.
Huh.
Yep.
You know?
And while I'm sitting there complaining about that, then the reveal at the end, I'm, okay.
Now I know.
Sure.
Right.
But yeah, and it was Malcolm Crowe, I think.
Okay.
Dr. Malcolm Crowe.
Yeah.
Great movie though.
Yeah, hard to come back from that one. I guess, but if you have to have one big hit, what a big hit to have.
Well, M. Night Shyamalan, he's had a lot of he's had that one for sure, but he's had a couple of decent ones, since then, but nothing of that caliber.
Right.
But I mean, he's had a couple of decent ones since then, and of course his MO is the whole twist ending on everything,
which kind of pigeonholed him into kind of probably the downward spiral he's kind of seen lately.
I think it's just, I mean, he just saw the success from Sixth Sense that he just feels that that's what he needs to do in every single movie, and it's just, that's not what we want.
You can't keep up that kind of momentum.
Yeah.
No. So, go ahead.
No, I'll just say I did like the one he did, Unbreakable. It was really good with Bruce Willis.
Yeah, it was all right.
And its sequel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if you haven't seen it, it's actually really good.
I have seen it. It was pretty impressive. I think, honestly, it was more of a testament to the actor, the director on that one.
What was the one that, The Village?
The Village was pretty decent, too.
Yeah, The Village was pretty good.
Yeah. And like I said, he's had some hits and misses.
What's the Lady in the
Lady in the Water?
Yeah.
I went to the theater and watched that. I had to go watch
Clerks
Clerks 2.
Pretty horrible.
Right after that to get the taste of that out of my mouth. So,
but he got a workout set, just the right size.
Let's not talk.
What Signs?
Signs.
The Fog.
Number 2 to you, my man.
All right. Let's switch tracks here a little bit. This is a little weird one. I don't expect too many people. Well, people in this room, yeah, but your listeners, probably not many have seen this.
I don't know. I'm not very savvy.
1985. Directed by a little old Monty Python alum, Terry Gilliam. Brazil. This started Jonathan Pryce, which a lot of people know from the Pirates of the Caribbean series as the governor. Bob Hoskins was in this. Ian Holm. Robert De Niro even had sort of a cameo part that sort of stole the show. If anyone's familiar with George Orwell's 1984, this was basically Gilliam's take on that. It's a very dystopian future. In fact, you know what? Everybody give it a watch because it's scarily relevant today. It really, really is. It brings out tropes like bad office work, terrorist attacks, and our basic indifference to it before things like Facebook even existed. There's literal scenes where people are eating at a diner and a terrorist bombing happens, and they just put those little like cardboard changing things up that they used to have in girls' changing rooms, and people just finish their dinner while they scrape the bodies away over there. Let's not deal with that. And we're not that far yet, but we're shakily close. The twist ending in this being in this entire film, it all centers around Jonathan Pryce, who's this dreamer. He keeps having these illustrious dreams where he's in this awesome kind of like angel outfit where he's got wings and stuff, and he's fighting these monsters and saving this beautiful girl. Well, he finds this girl in the real world. And to give you a frame of reference, sort of like Aliens, sort of like that kind of world. Use technology, everything's grungy. He goes through all kinds of adventures. His life is threatened, all these things. And at the very end, when he thinks he's escaped with her and they're going to get away from the government, they're going to live in the woods and all this, the camera sort of pans out and he's been being interrogated by his best buddy, who's an interrogator for the big bad guy government. They basically drilled holes in his head and he's gone. You know, he's just a pile of mush. But in his head, he got away and he's happy. But you get so caught up in the story that you don't even consider the fact that he's still there getting terrorized. And there are like 3 or 4 cuts to this movie, so it's hard to do it. If you do get a chance, watch the director's cut. It does come on the Criterion collection. There's about 3 or 4 cuts. The main theatrical cut doesn't have the same kick. It's a weird film. It's eclectic. It'll make you laugh, cry, feel funny to be a human being, but it hits a lot of weird emotional points, and it's worth checking out.
Yeah.
I've always had this on my list of movies to watch. I've never seen it, but it's always on my. I have like a short list, and that's on my list. I just never got around to watching it.
Man.
So now listening to you describe it, I really want to watch it now. So.
It's wild. It really is.
Yeah, sadly, my number 2 has already been said. Saw.
Wow,
Thanks,
Saws.
I love Saw. I love it. Like Heath pointed out, this movie is going to go down to be a classic. 20, 30 years from now, people are still going to be watching this movie as a cult horror film. And it's just amazing. The twist with him being the Jigsaw killer being the fake dead corpse in the middle of the room. I mean, it was just like, oh, shit. I mean, you couldn't even. The thing about it is, you know, other movies you watch back, you see like these surprise ending movies. You see like tidbits, like information showing that there's going to be a twist at the end. After you watch it a second time, you're like, oh, there's the clue. In the Saw movie, no matter how many times you watch it, I was unable to ever pick up a point where the Jigsaw killer is the dead guy in the room.
And you did see him once in the movie too during the movie.
Yeah, so I mean, it never gave you clues leading up to the surprise ending. So it was just a surprise.
Well, the head's so obscured with the blood and the viscera and stuff. He's just this pale, lifeless corpse in the room. You don't even think about him.
Yeah. So.
While they're chained up, he's also talking to them through the PA system. So who would think that the guy who's giving you direction is the guy laying on the ground?
Yeah. So,
fantastic.
It was.
My number 2 was just also said The Sixth Sense. So
great movie.
Yeah, it's really good movie, and you know he's kind of he put it in perspective on everything. So you can't just it's basically like I said, the boy trying to have all these spirits move on. You know, it's like to me it's like they're unfinished business, and they're trying to like the one with the little girl that was being poisoned. They couldn't find the videotape, and they went and found the kid went and found the videotape for him, and realized the mom had been poisoning the little girl the whole time. And it's a great movie. There wasn't much more to say about it other than what we all already said. So,
okay. Well, apparently, guys, great minds think alike, because my number 2 is The Usual Suspects. We've covered it. As a matter of fact, this, for the longest time, and it's still pretty far up there, for the longest time was my favorite movie of all time. And I thank you for that, because you're actually the one that talked me into watching it.
Mm-hmm.
You worked over at Movie Gallery, and I never I'd heard of the movie, but I didn't know what it was about. And you were the one that really pushed me, if you hadn't seen it, you really got to watch this movie. And I'm like, what does this guy know? Okay, whatever. Just, So I rented the movie, and it blew me away. Fantastic. It's not one of those really fast movies. It's kind of slow paced. It took my wife 2 or 3 times to get her to actually sit through the whole thing because it's slow paced and it's drawn out. But if you enjoy that kind of movie, it's just more to enjoy,
It's fantastic.
But it is Bryan Singer's best work to me. And then there's a guy who's done so many different genres of movies that he probably doesn't have like a slump like M. Night does. Because he went on to do
X-Men.
X-Men movies. No, the first couple X-Men movies were good. You're talking about a guy who set up a genre of movies when there wasn't really a genre set up yet.
Yeah, didn't exist.
You really had to go by Tim Burton's Batman as a superhero movie, but we're getting off topic here.
Sorry.
Anyway, The Usual Suspects, fantastic movie. That was my number 2.
All right, number 1 to you.
We're doing honorable mention.
Honorable mention?
For me at least, let me just go ahead and get number 1 out of the way, and then you guys can go on honorable mentions, because, oh my god, Kevin Spacey did it. It's The Usual Suspects.
Is your honorable mention or number 1?
Number 1.
Oh.
Also one of my favorite movies of all time. Probably one of my top 5.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just my go-to movie. Everything you said, 100% more. Kevin Spacey, though. Can't say enough about Kevin Spacey. Now, everybody was awesome. Kevin Pollak, Benicio del Toro, Gabriel Byrne, everybody was just
and the movie's so quotable. It's so quotable.
I love the part where they're in the lineup and they're telling us to tell you the little phrase.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that goes to the F-bomb thing, though.
Even Stephen Baldwin's good in that movie, you know?
I'll say it. The Usual Suspects is as good of a buddy film as Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah, I said it. Right there. It's true. It's true, too, because you get those guys in a room and you'll watch anything they'll do.
Yeah, I wrote it down
Fantastic.
just on my little short list here. 2 movies I'm going to watch tonight: Memento and Usual Suspects.
I've
seen both of them, but I haven't seen them in a really long time. So
since we've all done it, if you guys want to do honorable mentions first, that's fine. I just didn't want to build up to number 1 and be like, oh yeah, it's the thing we mentioned 7 times.
Right.
So,
well, go ahead. What were you going to say?
I'll say it's to you next.
Okay, we're going to do number 1s. I don't have an honorable mention. I mean, if I had one, I would pick Sixth Sense as my honorable mention. I mean, that movie really, I wanted to put it on my list, but I thought everybody else would pick it, so I didn't. And come to find out, no, everybody else picked everything else on my list. So hopefully you guys picked my number 1 so that you have to suffer. It's 7.
Oh, wow.
Good one.
I loved this movie with Brad Pitt.
Once again, Kevin Spacey.
Yep, Kevin Spacey. Yep.
Actually, right there in my honorable mentions, underneath, oh my god, Kevin Spacey did it again. Right there.
Yeah. So basically sets up there's a serial killer. He's killing people based on the 7 deadly sins. And he turns himself in at the end, basically. And he tells Morgan Freeman and Brad Pitt to take him out to this deserted area, and that he would show him the last 2 bodies. Mm-hmm. And when he arrives out there, Mills and Somerset, they bring a van in and with a package, and in the package is his dead wife's head.
What's in the box?
Yeah. And I mean, just that sin. So he sets up that his wife was the last one, and then the John Doe becomes Envy. Do they ever name him in the movie?
John Doe isn't named. In fact, Kevin Spacey's not even in the credits. Now, maybe in the re-releases now, but at the time, Kevin Spacey was not even in the credits.
I was gonna say, I think
he was, and Brad Pitt was the last sin, which was Wrath.
He was Wrath. He became Wrath. Yeah.
Yeah, he became Wrath by shooting him in the head.
But the John Doe was, which sin was he, though?
He wasn't the sinner. He was
lust, right? Didn't he lust after Kevin?
Yeah, he was
Brad
lust.
Pitt's family?
Yeah, he was lust. He lusted after.
That was the last 2 sins. He was one of the sins, and Brad Pitt was Wrath.
He killed the wife over lust, over jealousy.
And then he wanted what Brad Pitt had.
It'd be envy. Then.
Envy.
Envy. There we go.
Yeah.
Yep. Envy. No, lust was covered with the lady and the pills. And
You're
all
right.
That
Yep. Got it confused.
Oh, no, it's all good.
What a great movie. I didn't even think to put that on my list. What a great movie.
Yeah, I love that. That's my all-time favorite movie, too, in any genre. It's just, I try to get my wife to watch the damn movie, and she won't freaking watch it. She gets through, it's too gory. And she loves horror movies.
It is pretty graphic.
She loves horror movies,
especially when you come up with gluttony. Oh.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Gluttony was up there.
Sloth was pretty bad, too, so.
Yeah, I mean, just a great flick, man. If you haven't seen it, you got to watch it.
It is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Number 1 to you, Chris?
I am going to actually mention honorable mention because my number 1's already been mentioned. Honorable mention I have actually, it's more of I don't want to say a kid's movie, but it's more of like a teen movie, but it's called Middle School, The Worst Years of My Life. I actually sat down and watched this a few weeks ago, and in the movie, the kid he gets transferred to another school because he was a troublemaker at the last school. He caused like a lot of stuff and everything else. And when he gets there, his best friend actually got transferred there. So he gets there, and in the movie, it's kind of one of those like disobeying the rules things, but it's got little serious overtones to it. So anyway, they decide the principal has all these rules. He's got this book of rules, so they decide to break all the rules. They're going to break all the rules, fight the man or whatever. He meets this girl, starts hitting along with this girl, whatever, and he tells him, yeah, he said, whatever, I've experienced a tragedy in my past and this and that, and so he's just kind of working out his anger issues and this and that. Well, come to find out, his best friend that transferred with the school with him is actually his brother that died. So this whole time you've seen this kid, you don't figure this out till towards the end. You see a picture because he tells the story about how his brother died and this and that, and he took it really hard and everything else. And later on, you see the picture of him and the kid holding together, and I was like, oh my God, that's his brother. So the whole time he's imagining his brother there with him. The whole time.
But it wasn't.
But the way they made it seem is like the kid, like he would come up behind like the principal, fixing to like pull his pants down. He's like, no, he'd tell him, stop. What are you doing? And it's like the kid would always come up behind somebody like he's going to do something, So, but yeah, that's my honorable mention. But my number one, 1968, Planet of the Apes.
Wow.
Sorry.
Wow.
Yep.
Sorry.
Yeah.
You want to hike it out?
It's a good movie. It's a great movie. It's you got this again, the whole planet, and you feel he's at the very end, like he's getting away. He's like, yeah, or I'm out of here. We're getting away from all these apes. Whatever. He comes around the bend. You see the Statue of Liberty. Just realizes, oh my God, I'm on Earth, just in the future.
About 2020, by the way, I'm figuring.
And a lot of different things about that movie. And actually, Trent mentioned this to me. He said, what would be awesome is, I know we're talking about the prequels and stuff, is the fact that, you see this war, the new one, War on the Planet of the Apes, is how awesome would it be if you see this, the whole war, of course the apes take over everything else. At the very end of the movie, you see just the shuttle crash landing.
They did reference it in the first one already. You actually see the shuttle take off. It's on the news. It's playing on the TV behind you. They show Charlton Heston getting into the ship to take off.
Yeah.
And it's in the newspaper. So they've set the groundwork for that,
So, I
absolutely.
mean, how awesome would that be? And then, of course, I have a lot of, actually, personal reference to this movie. I used to live in Arizona and everything else. I lived in Page, which has one of the largest man-made lakes on the West Coast there, Lake Powell. Well, that movie was actually filmed there. The space shuttle that the crash landed at the very beginning in that lake, that's Lake Powell. In fact, that shuttle to this day is still sitting on the bottom of that lake.
Mm-hmm.
No, really?
Because,
cool.
well, they had the crane hooked up to it, and it got so waterlogged that it started pulling the crane down in. So they're like, nope, cut it. They cut it loose, and the ship sank to the bottom. It's still sitting at the bottom of Lake Powell.
Very cool. Very interesting. Let's go scuba diving.
When you named it number one, I was
if
going to say that.
If you can go about 800 feet down, it's all you, man.
Yeah, you're going to need some deep dive equipment for that.
Yep.
Not me.
That would be to Heath.
To Heath?
Okay,
Close us out.
Are we doing honorable mentions?
You can do your honorable mention.
Okay, well, my honorable mention was Fight Club, so we already brought that up.
Woo.
Great movie. I just thought this while sitting here. I wanted to mention The Machinist. Did you guys ever watch
Yes,
that?
I haven't seen
it yet. No.
Fantastic.
That was a great movie. While we're just sitting here talking about movies, I was like, a great honorable mention would be The Machinist. The name's slipping. What's the guy? The lead.
Christian
Batman.
Bale.
Christian
Christian
Bale, yeah.
And people always talk about the amount of body morphing changing he had to do for this role.
Oh, my Lord.
Is insane, especially if you look at it and think that he played Batman just a few months later.
He got down to 97, 98 pounds?
It's scary.
Pounds, that's it.
It's scary what he
That's
did.
what my wife weighs.
It's
But Christian Bale, he's a 6 foot something dude.
It's scary what this guy did for this role, and it really pays off. It's fantastic. So that's a on the fly honorable mention. My number one is my number three was The Sixth Sense. I said that M. Night Shyamalan was praised as the next Alfred Hitchcock. If people call you the next anything, because by comparison you're being compared to something great, so why not go ahead and bring up Alfred Hitchcock himself? This is from 1960. Anthony Perkins, Janet Leigh. This is my favorite movie of all time. This is Psycho. This movie,
Great movie.
did more for cinema in the 60s than anything I could think of. Alfred Hitchcock had a disclaimer in front of this movie that if you were too scared, they would give you your money back if you left the theater. He made blood out of chocolate syrup. Janet Leigh was so traumatized by this film that she would never take a shower again. She only took tub baths. And she said that in many interviews, that she never felt like she was alone when she was in the bathroom in a shower. It had such an impact on her. And this movie is not only a suspense, it's a murder movie. It's also people forget about this. It's a bank heist movie. The very beginning of the movie is Janet Leigh stealing $40,000 from her boss, who is kind of one like these typical pinch on the ass. Go get me some coffee, sweetheart. And she kind of thinks to herself, this guy won't miss this money. I'll put this away the weekend, the bank's closed. By the time Monday rolls around, I'll be long gone. And unfortunately for her, she is long gone.
Oh, yeah.
You see a very simple, nice Anthony Perkins. Norman Bates runs a hotel that is owned by his mom. He is a curator. He keeps all the beds pristine to make sure everything is nice and neat and orderly. Flush the towels for you. He's the type of person that you wouldn't mind leaving your room key with. Only that would probably be a really bad idea. What makes this movie so fantastic is Anthony Perkins' performance is outstanding. I've often said in movies, you watch certain movies that star crazy people, and you say that actor does a great job of playing a crazy person. And then there are movies like Jack Nicholson in The Shining and Anthony Perkins here, where you say they hired a crazy person that can act. And that is what this movie is. This man is so insane once you get down to almost the molecules, the very essence of what he is someone who is so disturbed that you would never see it, though. He puts on a great front. And the arguments that he has with his mother is so real and so emotional that there's no way that he's the bad guy. He's a victim. He's a victim of an overbearing mother who doesn't want him to have any fun in his life, doesn't want him to have any friends in his life. She wants him to run that motel and sit there and rot. And you realize that at the end of the movie, spoiler alert, that there is a mother. She is in control of Norman way more than you would ever have realized. Not only does she control him, she controls his mind. He killed her and her lover that he found in bed. He was so traumatized by what he did. He was so close to his mother that she couldn't bear going on without her. So he wears her clothes. He walks around the house in her voice when no one's there. This is not for show. This is not to put on YouTube to see how many hits you can get. This man does this for himself to bring what little bit of sanity he can to his life. And you realize at the end of the movie, they have him in the police station. One of my favorite scenes of all time in any movie. And Chris and I have talked about this scene several times. And the police are explaining he killed the mother. There is no mother. It's only Norman. And the deputy comes in and says, she wants me to bring her a blanket because she's cold. He doesn't mention Norman. He doesn't say he. He says she is cold. And he said, yeah, that should be fine. You see the scene, Norman sitting there, blanket wrapped around her shoulders, and there's a fly that lands. And she's talking about how the police will find her son guilty of her murder. They'll arrest her son and put him away forever. But they will let her go because they're watching her. They're watching her right now. And that fly lands on her, and she says, I won't hurt this fly. They're watching me right now, and I know. Then they'll say, that old lady is so sweet that she wouldn't even hurt that fly. And they'll let me go. How insane is that?
That's pretty insane.
That is pretty
And
bad.
I get chills just talking about it. It's my favorite movie of all time. It's probably my favorite scene of all time because you realize the depths of this person is completely lost it. And they're a prisoner in their own mind at that point.
Yeah,
I love that movie.
It's great movie.
That's great fun. I love that movie too a lot. And Bates Motel the series. I don't know if you watched it.
I've never seen it.
It's actually really good. The kid they got to play the young Norman Bates, he does a really
Freddie
good job.
Highmore.
Yeah, he does a really good job of being that crazy but not crazy
Right.
kind of kid. I mean, it's a really good series. It has a couple bad episodes, but I mean, I recommend watching that
Well,
if you're like that big of a fan.
Well, this is why people say someone will be the next Alfred Hitchcock. Or this, like
Yep.
to me, this is like the
Oh yeah,
peak of cinema,
Oh, yeah.
storytelling, suspense.
Definitely
You know,
his best work, I would think.
absolutely.
And for such a gory movie, as you pointed out earlier, that shower scene with the Hershey's and everything, if you really go back and you really, really watch for the DVD and Blu-ray audience, you never see the knife touch her once.
No, it never connects
Nope.
ever.
It
It's
just
in,
comes.
It's in front of her.
Yep.
It's beside her, but there's no point in the whole ordeal where the knife is actually touching her skin. It
Nope.
never happens. But it's her acting, and it's so masterfully done.
And her eye when she goes lifeless. I've still never figured that out. That's the biggest trade secret. She said she didn't do anything crazy. They didn't do anything to her eye. But there's just this moment where her eye just dilates and she's sitting there and it like goes like a glass doll. And
Yeah,
we still don't know how he did that.
like I said, my favorite movie.
Hands
well,
down.
that's our show for today. Warned you in the beginning that it was going to be a long one. We love making our top fives long. I'd like to go ahead and thank Heath for being our
Hey,
guest
thank
for
you
the
guys
first time.
so
Thank
much.
you.
This was an honor, really. Thank you guys.
Thanks, Kent, for coming back with us, too.
Anytime.
Thank you.
Don't forget, we got, check us all our social media,
Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram,
Stitcher,
iTunes, YouTube,
Google Plus,
Google
Grindr.
Plus, yeah.
Grindr. Our website, mikeandchrisreloaded.libsyn.com.
And there's still a gift to be given away for somebody who listens to last week's podcast and follows the instructions. And Kent don't qualify.
Kent don't qualify.
And neither does Dane because
I listen.
yes,
I didn't
you
listen to the last
qualify.
show.
You
Full
qualified,
disclosure.
but no one left a comment.
Yep, nobody left a
That
comment.
was the
on
deal.
them.
You left a comment on our actual website, and you got the gift.
Yep.
So, but we do
qualify.
got also. I will be picking up our shirts tomorrow or the next day.
Yep. So those who ordered them,
Those who
they'll
ordered
be getting
them,
them out.
get with us, or we'll get with you guys actually, and we got some more good shows coming up. We got some our anniversary show coming up here in a few weeks.
Yep.
And we appreciate everyone for listening, everyone for being with us this whole time, and we look forward to more to come.
All right, you guys take
Thanks
care.
again, guys.
Thank you, and we are out.